You built the title. It stopped feeling like enough. The ladder kept moving, the dread stayed. Break time, 600 mins. 3 frameworks, all found the same prison, the inner citadel. Here at the inner citadel, rank is the cage. What we found surprises even those who've read Sapolsky. Your brain runs a survival program built for another era. This episode traces the program back to its source. These concepts are philosophical and educational, not clinical prescriptions. If this surfaces pain, bring it to a professional. Robert Sapolsky spent 2 decades with wild baboon colonies. He expected the alpha males to have the lowest cortisol, the highest rank, fewest threats, the logic of dominance. The data reversed it. Alphas had the highest cortisol. More to lose meant more to fear, biologically. Middle-ranked animals showed the best health markers of all. Sapolsky named it the alpha tax, the cost of rank. We exported that biology into our offices and salaries, and called the chronic cortisol elevation ambition. This is not metaphor, this is primate neurobiology. Something in this data the arrival fallacy cannot explain. Achievement satisfaction has a half-life of 6 to 18 months. The alpha baboon has the highest cortisol, not lowest. Sapolsky spent 20 years measuring what status actually costs. Status anxiety scales upward with rank, not against it. Middle-ranked animals showed the best health markers in the colony. Your brain runs the same hierarchy software. Updated, never. That hierarchy circuit is running in your brain right now. The neuroscience is settled. What do we do with it? Jung and Epictetus arrived differently at the same exit. Their convergence is what we investigate next. It reframes everything. Jung didn't write about status the way we typically discuss. He wrote about the persona, the mask for others. The word comes from Latin for theatrical mask, deliberate. The persona begins as adaptation, a costume for society. The young professional learns which version of himself gets promoted. He becomes that version so completely he forgets the rehearsal. Jung named this persona inflation, mask mistaken for self. What we found reading Jung, this collapse was inevitable. Not failure, necessary. The mask cracks, its function. For Jung, midlife crisis means the mask stops fitting. Consider Festinger's social comparison theory, published in 1954. We evaluate standing by comparison, not by absolute measure. What you have is nothing. Neighbor has everything. This mechanism runs 24 hours a day without consent. Be honest. When did you last evaluate without comparing? Seneca saw this mechanism from inside. He was Rome's wealthiest. He wrote, "The man who craves more is the poorest." Seneca wrote from a villa that made senators envious. He wasn't theorizing. He confessed the mechanism in himself. There's something worth pausing over in that admission. The mechanism doesn't exempt you because you've read about it. Jung named the social mask the persona, built for approval. After 40, the approval circuit disconnects from the actual self. The title fails because it was never what it promised. Mainstream self-help misses this entirely. That is the danger. Self-help says optimize the persona. Jung said dissolve it. Dissolve the identification, not the function. Different operations. This is where most people turn back. Research gets counterintuitive. The neuroscience reveals what Festinger could not fully measure. Upward comparison against those above activates threat circuitry. The same amygdala response as physical danger. Brain doesn't distinguish. Status loss registers as existential threat, not hyperbole physiology. Marcus Aurelius knew this mechanism. He ruled the world. He wrote privately that avoiding comparison required daily effort. Meditations, Book 4, Passage 18, How Much Time He Gains. Aurelius was not a monk. He managed an empire daily. The man with everything still trained himself to want less. What we encounter next dismantles the premise entirely. Jung, Sapolsky, Epictetus, 3 centuries, 3 disciplines. Each arrived at the same structural observation on status. Here the 3 accounts collide. What they share is stunning. Sapolsky's baboons, Jung's patients, Epictetus's students, same diagnosis. The organism confuses means with ends, rank with worth. Epictetus had the clearest term for this, the category error. The enchiridion, in our control, and what is not. Rank, title, salary, all preferred indifference, not genuine goods. Preferred, we may pursue them. Indifferent to our worth. This is not asceticism. Epictetus does not refuse the promotion. Your worth does not live in the outcome of rank. This inversion changes everything, if you actually receive it. Consider Jung's own experience of this precise inversion. In 1913, his Freud break destroyed his public standing. For 3 years he could not lecture without controversy. Jung later wrote this period was his most productive internally. When the persona collapsed, what remained was available first. He called it confrontation with the unconscious. Descent before individuation. At the bottom is not nothing. Jung was insistent. What you find, the self present before the performance began. Here is the convergence. 3 centuries, 1 structural insight. Sapolsky, the organism suffers when it confuses rank with survival. Epictetus, suffering follows from placing worth in the preferred indifferent. Epictetus wrote his philosophy with no title, no rank. He was a slave, less control than anyone in philosophy. He articulated the highest account of internal freedom ever produced. He didn't theorize. He was the experiment personally. His life and his philosophy, the key gap. Jung wrote post-Freud. He discovered something more important than recognition. Absence of the mask, not emptiness. That was readiness. Sapolsky documented the same in troops after rank collapse. Troops that developed egalitarian cultures showed the best outcomes. Not highest, not lowest. A different relationship to rank. That is the convergence this episode was built to reach. Status is not the problem. The category error is. When rank is a tool held loosely, it works. When rank carries your worth and must succeed, it destroys. Jung's harder phrase, inflation. The persona swells. Self suffocates. Presentations Jung saw and therapists see now. Nearly identical. Depression after a promotion. Success that produces immediate dread. The arrival fallacy. Next level resolves what this one couldn't. What comes next is the practice. The one that works. The inner Citadel practice addresses the category error directly. Not a mindset reframe, a reclassification of what status is. Epictetus used the daily dichotomy audit before opening the inbox. Each morning before messages, he ran the classification. He classified each agenda item, in my control or not. Salary negotiation, not my control. My preparation, my control. Promotion decision, not my control. My contribution, my control. The exercise seems simple. Years to do without resistance. Because the brain resists. The survival circuitry fights the reclassification. That resistance is not weakness. It's 40 years of misclassification. We know someone at 51 you may recognize. He reached the peak of a profession, 6,000 employees. He called us after layoffs that preserved his position. He said, I survived, but I don't know what for. I don't know what for. The category error surfacing. It is not depression. It is clarity. Extremely uncomfortable clarity. Individuation begins not by achieving more, by asking. Not what to achieve, Rather, what is this anxiety protecting? Sapolsky's research and Jung's framework agree. The anxiety is information. The rank circuit carries what it was never built for. The practice. Tonight before sleep, write 2 sentences. Sentence 1. What rank pursuit belongs in the worth column? Sentence 2. What would I still be if it disappeared? Do not edit. The shadow speaks in first drafts. Not therapy. The Epictetus audit applied at the existential level. Aurelius performed this every night for 20 years of empire. More rank than any human. The practice never became unnecessary. Higher rank made it more necessary. The circuit demands feeding. A version of you already knows what this video says. That version is not aspirational. The persona is covering it. The inner citadel is not a destination. It is practice. Returning to what is in your control, to what preceded. Jung's word, individuation, becoming what you actually are. The research examined today converges on a single practical commitment. Stop measuring worth by rank. Start with what Audit reveals. The 7 stages extend beyond what one episode can deliver. Today is the frame, the understanding that makes practice possible. If this resonates with something you carry, go deeper. The question that changes everything, what is actually yours? Full investigation pinned in the comments. Subscribe, we'll be here.